Three, two, one.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We're the Real Pineapple. This is Hunter, and I'm here with Colin. Colin, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. It's weird reviewing a movie that's not we're not going to be talking about, making a worst of list as we're fresh off of our shittiest movies of the year podcast.
God, I gotta say, this weekend was so therapeutic because, thank God, I actually saw some good movies. This has been a while since I've been able to say that. It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, God, it's a lot of shit we saw.
Yeah, but we have our best of coming up in March, so we'll be watching good movies for a while. Well, 50 Shades comes out next month, but we have, there's positivity on the horizon as far as good films, so that's very reassuring. But guys, we're here to talk about The Post today, which so this is what I do hate about these movies that are in limited release and that Reno really needs to get their shit together on, is that indie movies take so long to come out here, then they just kind of always just randomly drop them, oh, this is coming out this week. So I didn't even know this was coming out till Thursday night. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I'm seeing The Post because I really wanted to see that.
Yeah, and it was getting tons of buzz too, and I feel like these movies, all these Oscar movies, they get released to a couple cities, and people see them months in advance, and I'm always it's really annoying when everyone's talking about them, and I'm just why'd release it already? Why do they wait?
Yeah, I genuinely hate that. And another movie we'll be reviewing today, I, Tonya, came out, same thing. They just went, oh yeah, we're releasing that today. I'm like, oh, all right, well shit, I'll see that too. So The Post is directed and produced by some guy named Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, who's some new guy on the scene.
Yeah, some Joe Schmo. But just getting it out of the way, Spielberg is arguably, and I'd have to think about it because Del Toro's right there. He's one of, if not my favorite director of all time. There have been some things Spielberg has done that have made me very upset. War of the Worlds immediately comes to mind. But I mean, you think about all the shit he has done that just hit. I mean, whether it's Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my favorite movies of all time. I remember seeing that as a kid, just going, all right, I love this.
Yeah.
He did Adventures of Tintin a couple years ago, which I fucking loved. I love Tintin. That was one of those movies I went, Jaws.
Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies of all time. Of course.
We both love that movie. He did The Terminal, which was actually really good. Catch Me If You Can. I mean, AI. I mean, you go down the list of Spielberg stuff. E.T., obviously. It's kind of insane. Just the Schindler's List. I mean, just the amount of shit.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah, who we'll be talking about. Just the sheer amount of brilliance that Spielberg has produced, literally and figuratively, over the years is insane.
It's so crazy how he's done it for so long, for sure.
Yeah, and been this consistent. I mean, he really is he's really the Lakers of directing. He's been so good for so long. I did that just for you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for not saying the Celtics, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. I got you. But he's been so good for so long, to the point where it's almost his worst enemy, where people are like, oh, it's another Spielberg movie, who cares? That's where we are with him, because he's so good at this. But
he's kind of doing more Oscar stuff too now. Really, he's transitioned from the blockbuster to the Oscar type movies with Lincoln and Bridge of Spies and lately those type.
Yeah, he does have Ready Player One coming out, which I'm actually really stoked for.
Oh, that one looks weird. I don't know about that one, but we'll see. That's gonna be an interesting review. because I don't know what to think about that one yet. It's got our boy from Baby Driver, but what I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I hope it's good. That's all I'll say is I hope it's good. I'm trying not to get too hyped for it.
I saw like the Iron Giant in there. I saw some like lots of random stuff. It looks kind of like VR chat, like the movies, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
But then you say, oh, Spielberg is going to be directing Meryl Streep, who's, another young upstart, and Tom Hanks. I'm like, oh, they might as well just make the Oscar into a solo of Meryl Streep. It's like she gets nominated every fucking year. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's so good. It's just like, I mean, she did that one shitty movie. What was that? Ricky the Rocker or whatever the fuck that was called?
Oh god, yeah, that movie was terrible.
You remember that? Yeah,
that was only like 2 years ago or something, I think, right? Like 2015 maybe? I don't know.
But that's like the last bad movie she's done in quite some time. I mean, she's an incredible actor. And then Tom Hanks, I mean, yeah, you mentioned it last week, The Circle, not very good, but
but that's rare for him for him to be in a movie where I'm not just like Tom Hanks was brilliant.
But Tom Hanks hits so much. And so when I heard, oh, it's a Spielberg directed and produced movie starring Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks, I just went, oh, I wonder how many Oscar nominations it's going to get. By the way, I'm going to say 6. Because I think... Yeah. So here's the thing. I think this movie is slow for the first... And full disclosure here, last night I might have gotten a little high, and I might have taken some NyQuil PM, so I was in quite the slumber, waking up, going to see this movie at 10:30 in the morning today. So
fair enough.
That was kind of a struggle. So
I agree with you though. I agree with you that the movie was slow. That was like my main criticism. Is that like I remember like the first probably 45 minutes, I was just like, man, I don't really care about a whole lot going on right now.
Yeah, it's very like there's a lot of pieces at bay, and to Spielberg's credit, you can almost hear the carnival like because there's so many pieces that he's juggling, like to the point you really have to be paying attention. And I think there's a complaint, and this kind of ties into The Commuter, kind of the inverse of it. This movie really doesn't spoon feed you. You just have to really be paying attention and be able to like keep up with it. Which I actually do appreciate when movies do that. Like when they trust me enough to do the kind of like Inception. Like, you know what I mean? Where it trusts you to do the work yourself. It just presents you with everything. And I appreciate that. And you're right. The first, I think 45 minutes is pretty spot on. It is slow, but goddamn, man, that hour mark on, I don't know if this will make my best of. Because there's so much good shit that came out.
Oh, dude.
But goddamn, dude, this movie.
So are we considering this 2017 then? I mean, the Oscars obviously are, but
it did come out in the limited release.
Okay, so our rules are going to be limited release is fine.
Yeah, limited release is fine. So,
okay.
I gotta say, man, son of a bitch, Spielberg, man, he gets film, man.
Dude, he's so good.
How good was this shit, man? Once it got going, though, like
he's such a good storyteller. Like I appreciated, like you said, like you put it perfectly. This was like what I was gonna say going into this. So you basically took the words out of my mouth when you were saying, it really ramps up, like probably at that hour mark, kind of that like halfway point. And when everything starts falling into place and you realize like the gravity of the situation and how everything's unfolding, like I was like, damn, man, like the stakes are getting higher and higher. And Spielberg just knows how to like build that tension, build that drama. And then of course you have Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks, playing point guard, leading the way. It's phenomenal. It's so good at that second half. And
so you want to kind of jump into the plot, man?
Yeah, sure. So this is all like dealing with the Vietnam War and basically the news being reported about it. And it all centers around the Washington Post, which at this time in the 70s was kind of like a small, I don't want to say like up and coming news paper, but it was definitely like privately owned still. It was about to go public. to get traded on the stock market. And the New York Times was basically like the big dog on the East Coast. Like, whatever they were reporting on cue, my dog shakes his head.
Yeah. I was like, oh, Buster.
Yeah, Buster. So like the New York Times, they have like the best journalists. They have this guy like Neil something who does all the best work, and the Post is worried. Like that guy Neil hasn't come out with anything yet. It turns out that he's gotten his hands on these top secret documents about the Vietnam War and how the U.S. knew that we couldn't win it. There was no exit strategy, and we just kept sending troops over there, young American men to go die. So the New York Times gets all this information, and they put it out, and Nixon, who becomes like the villain of this movie, basically gives them the cease and desist to the New York Times, and he threatens them to go to court, and the New York Times stops reporting on it, and basically the Globe, or the Washington Post rather, they end up getting an opportunity to report on this, and that's kind of how it unfolds from there, and the decisions they make, and what ends up happening. And dude, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of president would try to discredit the news media, trying to keep him in check? Like, what kind of president would do that? Just must have no balls, morals, or just must be an absolute piece of shit to just be so incompetent at his job. And anyways, so basically,
you're only talking about Nixon, right?
Yeah, correct, because that's never happened again, right?
Yeah, that would never repeat. History never repeats itself.
Yeah, that was a phrase as a kid when people would be like, oh, history repeats itself. I'm like, that's not true. And the older I get, I'm like, oh my god, it is so goddamn accurate just how often. Yeah. It's like, oh, we've been here before, haven't we? Just, god damn it. But you are right. This movie is so timely, too, which is another reason why I think I love it so much, because in light of a certain president saying that countries are shit. God, how sad is that? I'm sorry, that's where we are. That the president goes like, oh, other countries are shitholes. Like, oh, cool, right? That's fine, right? Fucking douche. Anyways,
and he's clearly not to turn this into a political podcast, but it's hilarious that he says that like Haiti and African countries are shithole countries, but we need more people from Norway. Like, could he be more blatantly, openly racist for any like oh, what's the skin color of everyone from those countries? Like, oh my god, man, it's ridiculous.
So I hope this happens. I don't know if you've been following this, but there's a huge thing on Twitter. Basically trying to push for a reporter to ask Trump about how he feels about social issues in the nation of Wakanda, and I want someone to ask him that so badly. That's becoming like a huge thing. And so the best tweet I saw was about, oh yeah, how do you feel about the nation of Wakanda, and how do you feel about the rogue assassin James Buchanan Barnes? I'm just like, yes, please, someone ask him about Wakanda and the Winter Soldier. I'm begging you. So hopefully a reporter has the balls to do it, but
that'd be great.
That'd make me so happy. But so look, Tom Hanks in this movie, he plays Ben Bradley, who's basically kind of like running the paper. Like,
yeah, I think he's like the chief editor or something like that.
Yeah, bravo. He's chief editor. And then Meryl Streep is playing Katharine Graham, who got the paper. Who the paper you said, like, it's been her family for years, and she got it after her husband committed suicide, which is like, I was like, god damn, okay. And then like her father owned it before that, and so she's really in quite the pickle here, because not only are men just like, oh, it's so cute you're in this paper, it's adorable doll, like they might as well just be saying that.
and this is back in a time where like her husband, he was the one that basically took over running the paper, and he's not even like the previous owner's son. Like her dad left it to his son-in-law, who married Meryl Streep's character, and like that was just how it was. Like Meryl Streep was like, yeah, that's, I take care of the home and everything. You know what I mean? Like, I raised the family. That was the times back then, which is, you know, it shows this progressive kind of, you know, the movement of women in power in a big way, with her in these rooms and negotiations on bringing this company public too.
So I will say, this is just, you know, Mama Hunter, you know, you're gonna be a feminist. Like, this is where that came out, because every dude seriously is talking to her like, oh, it's so cute how you're in this paper, isn't that adorable, you should go bake a cake while you're at it. Like everyone is being such a dick to her, and she just being as sweet and as kind as she can be, to the point where she basically snaps. But even when she snaps, it's sweet. She's like, oh, she's like, oh yeah, I could have sworn this wasn't your paper, so basically fuck off. Let me make this decision about if we're going to print or not. And it's so awesome to see her grow in confidence as the character, as shit just gets really close to hitting the fan. Before I throw it back to you, can we just talk about how that we live in a world where David Cross and Bob Odenkirk, the guys from Mr. Show, are great dramatic actors now?
Oh my god, how great is that?
like I'm sitting there watching Bob Odenkirk. I'm like, oh my! And look, you're the one who got me into Breaking Bad. Like, really made me watch it. And after watching Breaking Bad, I went, God, he's so good as Saul Goodman. But I'm sitting here watching him in this. I'm like, God damn, the guy's a great actor. Like, it's not just Vince Gillian just directed him. It's like, he can be great. Like, just give him great material and he'll knock it out of the park. And he was actually my favorite part of this, if I'm being totally honest.
Who was?
Bob Odenkirk, man, for me.
Okay, yeah, he was very good. He was the one. He had the contact. The guy who had originally leaked these papers. Yeah, he was very good in his role. I definitely agree with that.
I mean, so it's really about the paper, you know, siphoning through all this information and just how the government does freak out and just goes, oh yeah, these were military secrets, and this makes us look really terrible, because it was Nixon, Kennedy, President Johnson, and who am I missing? I got 3 out of the 4, I believe.
Those were the important ones for the most part, yeah, because they were the ones that kept it going the longest.
Yeah, so this movie is basically should just be the logo should just be like the government shrugging, because that's basically what it was. Like, hey, Vietnam's going really badly, but we don't want to say it's going badly, so we're going to keep sending people over because America. And
it's amazing, like what it shows is like the power that the press has and should have, that, you know, like at the end, like, full spoiler alert, but it's not really spoiler alert because this is history. It all actually happened. But
yeah, exactly.
You know, it was ruled in favor that the press, you know, was allowed to report on this stuff, even though it was top secret, because the American people have a right to know. And, you know, it goes to the First Amendment, where, you know, the freedom of the press, where people, you know, can hear about all this stuff.
Yeah, and I really think what this movie does so well, and this is when there's a point I laughed. And the movie, I think, is actually pretty funny, all things considered, with the subject matter it's dealing with. There's a point where Bob Odenkirk's character, he's flying back home. Flying back home. I don't think there was one black person in this movie, now that I think about it, but anyways. There
was I remember there was the girl. There was the girl that met with, I think it was Meryl Streep. She was like, I hope you win, but don't tell anyone because I'll get fired or something like that. I forget. But yeah. But no, there was not many black people in this movie.
but Bob Odenkirk, he plays Ben, and such a funny scene. The student comes up, like, oh yeah, whatever you got there, it just must be really important. He's like, oh, you know, nothing big, just government secrets, and he just laughs it off like, I need to get home like really quickly. But
yeah, it's a great line.
But that was just such a great line, and I think the point where the movie I settled on my grade is there's this point where Meryl Streep is talking about because basically there's a point where their lawyers well, I guess it's their lawyers who work for for her. I was a little confused on that.
Yeah, there was they were like their advisors, basically. They were lawyers, but they were just like, hey, this is how you should, if you don't want to get sued or go to prison, like these are what you can and can't do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's a point where they basically go, hey, because basically because the New York Times is taking the trial before the Post is, and basically they're dealing with the Supreme Court saying the same thing, basically, that you're printing shit you can't print. And so the Washington Post is basically trying to figure out, do we print this story or not? Mm-hmm. And their lawyers basically go, hey, if you do this, you realize the paper will probably be disbanded, it'll probably be shut down, you'll all probably go to jail. It gets and Spielberg, you mentioned it, Colin, you hit the nail on the head because you're so smart. Spielberg just builds the tension, and in Meryl Streep's character, you see the fear of oh wow, we could all be genuinely fucked in the worst way if we run this. But there's that scene where she basically has a brass set and goes, no, we're running this, and this is what my this is what my family would want. And that whole speech she gives, I went, wow. Meryl Streep. The thing is, I think even if this movie was just good, she'd probably get a Best Actress nomination because that's how good she is. But that one scene alone, I went, oh, she's getting a Best Actress nomination. It's not even she might get one. It's oh, she's getting one. And I think Tom Hanks is getting one too, because he's the one who's dealing with the lawyers giving him shit, and he's dealing with he's verbally sparring with Kay, Meryl Streep's character, and whenever they're on screen together, I just found myself putting my hands under with resting my face on my hand just to smile. He's you guys are you're so good together.
Yeah. His character does such a good job of, he's the one fighting for the story to be put out. And he's fighting with for the most part with the other guy that's working with the company. I guess he's the business manager or something, who's trying to be more conservative, more protective of the sale that's about to go through, so that they can get this, the company public and make all the extra money to hire better journalists. And him fighting so passionately to get this story out and fighting for the rights of the First Amendment, the rights of the freedom of press, he gets so he realizes in a great moment of the movie that I really loved, when he's talking with his wife, and his wife is telling him hey, you're fighting so passionately, I get it, but you don't have as much to lose as Meryl Streep's character. You have to think about this, you have to think about it from her perspective and really make sure you understand what she's giving up or what she's risking if she does go for this. And when all that's happening, I'm just Spielberg, you are just the maestro of all maestros. Right. He's just he's hitting every point, and I'm there was a slow burn, there was a slow build up to this movie, but now that everything's fallen in place, I'm just the man's a genius. And there's few people in Hollywood, director-wise, that you can really say that, and it's not ironic. But he's Spielberg's legit. He is one of the best storytellers, probably of all time.
He really is, and just sitting there, and you're right, that scene right there, I just went, oh my god, this is amazing. And right after that, they have a scene with their daughter who's been selling lemonade all day, which I just thought was a nice little kind of break. Oh, we can be funny too. The movie just balances everything so well, and not Bruce Greenwood, he's in this too, but he was fantastic. Bradley Whitford, who we just saw as the girl's dad in Get Out. So when I saw him, I kind of freaked out. I was run, black people. But he plays,
that's right.
He plays Arthur Parsons, who is really kind of verbally jousting with Tom Hanks's Brent Bradley, and their interactions are so tense, and it's just the most. You know, it kind of remind me of like if The Revenant had no violence in it, it was just a dialogue. Like it's like this big man just like dick measuring contest. Like, oh, I'm right. No, fuck you. Like it's so great to watch though.
Yeah.
And I fucking love Tom Hanks in this so much. He's so passionate, and you're right though. He's really fighting for this to be printed and everything. You're right about Spielberg, how he builds attention. I just found myself laughing at this one point because it shows like the paper being set up because they have to meet deadline in order to get it out that next morning. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I don't think there's another director who could shoot newspapers and make it tense somehow. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And you know what? The other thing I liked about that is that you can just tell that, like, you know, Spielberg's just a romantic for that old stuff that's now gone by the wayside. Like, in today's day and age, like, news is delivered to us so fast, so immediate. It's all on the internet. It's delivered directly to our phones. Like, back in the 70s, there was none of that. There wasn't even personal computers. So if you wanted to get the news, like, this is how it was done. Like, you put the little metal plates in, you put it in the printing press, and then, you know, you in him setting that all up, it leads to like this perfect point where, you know, like there's no Donald Trump sending a tweet on the toilet in the first thing in the morning to the entire world where like you can take it back. Like, these are all like very methodically thought out, like, you know, plates that are going to print out newspapers for the whole country to read. And, you know, at the end when they finally make that decision to print it, like, you know, it's a big deal. And he sets that up so well.
Yeah, it's when the newspapers hit, and I love when not the Senate. Why am I blanking?
The House,
basically. I believe it's the House, but basically, Secretary of State. That's who it is. Yeah, they call Tom Hanks' character like, oh yeah, so we picked up the newspaper. Not super chill what you guys did. So just so you know, we recommend. Like it's them saying like, hey, don't do this ever again, you know, in the nicest way without telling them to go fuck themselves. And Tom Hanks's Brad basically goes, oh man, that's super cool, I appreciate the call, but no.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like cease or desist, or we're gonna, like, you know, pursue legal action and take you to court. And he's like okay, I respectfully decline. And then he's just like, all right, fuck you, hangs up.
Yeah,
like,
I've been.
But it's just like, yeah, but that's just like, you know, just that moment where they're just staying strong. And I'm just like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna, before I kind of get to our final thoughts, I gotta throw this out because was debating on this, and I gotta give a shout out here. So I was leaving the theater, and I ran to this woman. Okay, that's a lie. The woman actually like ran me down. I was kind of like, who's yelling at me? And this, I promised I wouldn't say her name, but she told me that I can talk about her. She just basically stood out in front of the theater with me and just talked about how hard it is being, you know, a black man in the country right now, and how timely this movie is, and that she's speaking as a lesbian for 30, 40 years, how she's afraid, but how happy she was to see someone like me digesting this film. And she just talked to me about printing, and she's a writer. We were just talking about the writing process, and I really want to apologize to our to our listeners, because I didn't do something I should have done. We didn't review Detroit 6 months ago when we should have. We will have a review up for that this weekend, and I didn't want to review it because I was honestly afraid of what I would say about the politics in that movie. And I chickened out, and I'll be honest, I will make sure that for our listeners that never happens again. And this woman really inspired me in that sense, so I'd like to thank her for that. But with all that said, just getting to my final thoughts here, this movie is so timely and it's so important. And I really think that everyone, actually that's not even a thing, everyone needs to fucking see this movie. Like, everybody needs to see this. This is such an important film. Spielberg, Colin, I love the insight you bring, man, because you hit the nail on the head. Spielberg just a maestro at building tension, and when the movie ramps up and you tense up, you know how it's gonna fucking end, and yet I was sitting there like, oh god, are they gonna make deadline? And the way the movie ends, tying to another event, I just went, oh, cherry on fucking top, Spielberg, how are you so good at film? I was at an A on this for a while, but the way Spielberg ended this, I went, oh, fan-fucking-tastic, brilliant, fucking brilliant. Spielberg, sir, I tip my cap to you. This is just expert storytelling. The score on this is fantastic too. It kicks. It's subtle and subdued, but when it kicks in, it really just elevates the movie and the scene that it's participating in. I fucking love this movie. So yeah, Post, fan-fucking-tastic for me. Colin, your final thoughts and grades, sir.
Nice. That's really cool. I like that story you told about the individual that you talked with after seeing that movie. That's a cool little anecdote there. One of the things I want to say before I get to my grade is that I think Meryl Streep is incredible, and that's hard for me to say because Meryl Streep, like, I've kind of had a grudge against her because, as everyone knows, if you listen to this podcast, I'm a big movie guy. Like, I love movies, I love film, I love the art of film, I love, artistic films, I like all kinds of movies, I like dumb comedies, I like it all. I love shows, TV series that are artistic, all of that. But at the same time, I'm also a big football guy. I like my football. I love professional sports competition. And, I was a little annoyed when Meryl Streep came after us football fans, saying kind of it's like mutually exclusive, like we're just some dumb jocks. I don't feel I'm that way. I think you shouldn't attack football. Just leave it alone. I think as...
Tell the truth.
Back then, like, I just kind of wanted to be like big baller brands and be like, just stay in your lane. But honestly, and I haven't seen a few of her movies lately because they just haven't interested me, and we haven't decided as a group to review them. But this movie, let me just say, like, her performance, like, she's incredible. Like, she's an absolute, like, master of her art. She plays a character, like, especially a person like Meryl Streep, who is so strong and confident and has this huge, voice that, people listen to. Like, she's a role model for, like, every woman in Hollywood and, young girls growing up everywhere. And to be in this movie and see her, and she's so vulnerable and she's playing this character so well, being in the 70s and she's not, another actress could have played this in a way that wouldn't have been really realistic and being like overbearing and overly confident, trying to take down the man, where she's very timid. She second guesses herself all the time, this movie, but she still ends up standing strong at the end, and she still knows what's right and wrong, and she just portrays this character so well. Like, the biggest takeaway from this movie was, besides just confirming that Steven Spielberg is amazing, is that I had to, like, apologize to Meryl Streep in my own brain. I'm just like, all right, we're all good here. You're incredible. I love you. And then, yeah, Tom Hanks is great. But, I think we talked about it pretty much, the way Steven Spielberg makes his movies now. I like the one thing you added before you said your grade was the score, the music that plays. Yeah. All of his best movies, it's all the same theme. It's like he's just a master at putting the music to build the tension. Like, right from the beginning, when the original, the guy that leaks out the papers, like, it starts off really good where he's going in, he's grabbing these papers, and the music's like very tense, leading you along. But yeah, The only thing holding it back from a Fan-fucking-tastic is that I did think it was a little slow and it kind of lost my interest. But dude, this, yeah, but it's a solid A+. I mean, it's an A+ for sure for me.
Oh, all right. I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were gonna go Fan-fucking-tastic, but I can live with an A+.
Yeah, A+ is still really good for me.
Yeah, no, that is true. It's like Scott giving anything a B. Scott doesn't like Blade Runner, fucking idiot. Sorry, sorry.
I love you, Scott, but that will never ever make sense to me.
I couldn't agree with you more. At least we're united. We're united on this, but yeah, I don't know, because I started working on my top 10. I don't know if this will break my top 10. Like, it's so great. I don't.
There's a lot of movies. There's a lot of good movies out this year.
Yeah, and we're actually going to talk about a movie I think might break my top 10.
Ooh.
That'll be your next review.
But
I will save that here. But guys, have you seen The Post? If you haven't, please go support something like this. Please support good indie film like this, because this is for all intents and purposes, I know it's Spielberg, but this felt very indie though. I would watch this with Spotlight. I would so do a double feature of this and Spotlight.
There's a lot of similarities. I mean, obviously they're both newspaper movies.
So I will say, as much as I love this movie, I think I like Spotlight more.
Well, that's why I think that was the other thing in my head, why I gave it an A+, is because I was like, I think this is I mean, it's probably 1A and 1B, but I think Spotlight is a little better.
You know what's funny is, I will say, as much as I love Tom Hanks in this and Meryl Streep, I like the combination of Keaton and Ruffalo better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
Ruffalo, that was one of the best performances I've seen in a long time. Mark Ruffalo in that movie.
Yeah, so
and everybody was good. Rachel McAdams was really great too.
Yeah, I remember seeing her in that stupid time traveler movie. I was like, oh, she sucks. But I was like, oh, all right, well. You remember that movie, I can't remember what it's called. That romantic, I know.
Yeah. But dude, Ruffalo, there's that, it's one of the greatest monologues where he's just they molested kids. And they knew about it. He's he's just yelling at Michael Keaton, and Michael Keaton's just no, we're not publishing right now. That is one of the greatest scenes in film I've seen in a while. And that's just, love that movie.
Colin, you're a great salesman, because I'm gonna watch Spotlight tonight.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, we talked me into watching Spotlight.
Yeah.
And,
I just watched it a month ago, so it's fresh in my head. And I was just right when that scene happened, I was like, damn! I was like, this is so good.
God, Bruce Banner is amazing in this movie.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna Hulk the fuck out.
But that's fair though. But yeah, guys, go see this movie. Guys, have you seen The Post? Let us know what you thought in the comments below. You can please go ahead and like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, Google Music, and SoundCloud at The Real Pineapple. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow Scott on Twitter at NearmanTheFirst. And you can follow our good bud Colin here on Twitter at
The Real O'Neill.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll have a review up for Detroit this weekend, which I am really excited to review. And I will be honest, I do not know what's coming out this week, because there's Cinemark.
Not much. There's not much.
I feel like it's a slow upcoming week.
It is. I don't know. We might have to catch up on some stuff that's to rent or something.
Yeah, because I did remember looking. January is just such a dumping month where studios we don't care.
Yeah. We could review. Yeah. What didn't you say you wanted to review Bright? We should review Bright.
Yes, we will review Bright. All right, that's there we go. We'll review Bright and Detroit, at least for sure. But guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Meow.